All right, hey, Mike McGroarty here from mikesbackyardnursery.com, and today I want to share with you some of the awesome gardening tools. I've got a building full of tools, but there's probably a half a dozen that I reach for constantly. So a couple of them I have right here. I'm in here with these maniacs, so we'll see how that goes. Actually, yeah, he'll be back, trust me. So this tool right here, this thing is called a Gamma Ninja Hoe. You should be able to find it on Amazon or other places online. It's an awesome weeding tool because it's got a really thin blade, and what's nice about it is you can just, I'm going to show you here, you can just scratch the ground with it, and you're going to actually grab just enough of the roots to pull the weeds out by the roots. You can also use the short pointed edge. If you got a really big weed, you can kind of hook it under the under the crown of the roots, and then pull the top and the bottom at the same time and get the entire weed out, roots and all, which is a big thing. That's really important. So I'll demonstrate that here in another area. I'll demonstrate it here for you in a second. And this is, here, I'll put this down there, because Goofball is going to try and steal it probably. This is Fergus. He's not as curious as Finnegan, or I guess, I don't know. But anyway, so this tool, this is a easy digger. And you know, for those of you who are a little bit familiar with farming, this thing is shaped like a plow, and it's for planting small things like flowers and bulbs. Well, maybe bulb. I use it for bulbs. You know, a lot of times bulbs got to go 6 or 8 inches deep, so that's a little bit more of a challenge. But you can make a really nice hole in a short period of time with this thing. So it's a great tool for that. But anyway, I'm going to demonstrate these. So today in this video, we're gonna do the Easy Digger, the Gamma Ninja Hoe. I've got a matic over there, which is a tool that I use a lot, and I use it for things that most people probably wouldn't think of using it for. And then I've got a Nursery spade, which is really my go-to tool. I'm going to show you how I use that in this video, and then let's see, November 1st, probably in 2 weeks, I'm going to, because the Nursery spade is really a tool that's made for digging trees or digging shrubs. So I'll demonstrate that in a couple of weeks. I got a big magnolia over there that I've given to my kids, and I got to get it dug, but I'm really waiting for a good hard freeze so it's dormant before we start digging. So anyway, I thought the donkeys would be here helping me with this, but they've got fresh hay in the building over there, so that's what they're focused on. All right, so I'm going to show you how to, if you're going to make a bed and you need a nice straight line, this is mason's line. This is what bricklayers use so they can get the brick perfectly level when they're laying brick. So I put in a pin at that end, and I got a pin right here. So what I do, so you don't have to keep tying, this string is elastic, so you can get it nice and taut. But what I want to do, put that down a little bit, is I don't want to have to make a knot that I have to cut or try and untie. So what I do is I'm just going to wrap this like this. I'm going to pull it tight, and then I'm going to wrap it around the pin, and then when I make my next wrap, I'm going to make that wrap below my last wrap, and I'm just going to keep doing that, if you can see that. So I'm going to make this next wrap below the last wrap, and what that does is that binds the string right here, because you're actually pulling over top of that. And I'm not going to pretend exactly how it works, but I'll guarantee you it works. There. Now, when I let go of that, this is tight. It is not going to come loose. It'll stay that way for weeks. We use this method around here in the nursery all the time. So basically, trying to find my way. So anyway, there's the pin. My pin's right here. This is the string, and the string goes down to the other end. So this is going to be my weird bed. Like I said, this is going to be a temporary bed. I just want to remove a little bit of grass, and I'm going to temporarily plant some tall phlox plugs in here, because I think they'll be a little safer, a little happier here over the winter. So let's move on to that part of it. All right, let me grab the spade. So this is a nursery spade. This tool, first of all, these things are not cheap because they're really, really good. They're made well and they're heavy. Heavy is a big advantage because when you swing this thing, it's kind of like swinging a sledgehammer. It gets things done. You can buy a spade that kind of looks like this at your local box store for a lot less money, but it doesn't have enough weight to it to really do anything. And oftentimes they have a little bit, either some curve to the blade or an angle to the blade, which for me is really awkward because the way I use this thing, I don't want that angle because I use it for edging, I use it for removing sod, and I use it for digging trees. So when I'm digging trees, I actually take the grinder and I sharpen it and put a really nice sharp edge on here. The diggers at the nurseries, they don't hand dig as much as they used to, but years ago they hand dug everything. And those guys carried a big file with them, and they would file their spade at least 2 or 3 times a day. And it's kind of comical because sometimes their spades would have like 4 or 5 inches filed off of the spade because they filed it. But if it's sharp, it cuts the roots very, very easily. So today I'm going to use this for an edging tool, and it's going to do a good job because it's nice and straight. So I'm going to make this bed here along this yellow line. Might as well go all the way down, over my string down where it belongs. I didn't mention it, but before you start, you always want to snap the string so that it's nice and straight and isn't caught on something, and so you get a straight line and not something that looks like a banana. So basically, that's going to form the my edge. Now I got to get the sod out of there. There's 2 ways for me to do that. And it just kind of depends on what I'm working in, so because I'll do it both ways. But one of my favorite ways to remove sod is with this spade. But I'm going to spread my feet apart. I'm going to grab it way down here, grab it here, and then I'm going to do a little bending over because I don't want to like this. I want this thing to be as close to the ground as possible. So this is really soft soil, so it makes this job relatively easy. All right, so you can see I'm huffing and puffing a little. Not the end of the world. It did a pretty good job, and now I've got a nice straight edge. So now I'm going to switch tools to show you, because a lot of times I'll do this with the matic, and I'll show you how I do that with the matic. This is also a pretty handy tool. It's called a matic. It's got a kind of a sharp, that really needs to be sharpened, but I don't use it that much. It's great for cutting roots and stuff. Again, it's another relatively heavy tool. I probably could even sharpen the blade here a little bit. That's not something I do, but because mostly I use it for cutting, for stripping sod. If I sharpen the blade, my job might be a little bit easier. So when I go with the matic, I tend to do sections, and I want to pull the soil away from the area that's not done yet, because I don't want to go dragging sod and stuff on top of areas that I have to strip. So I'm going to go that direction. So, a lot of times what I'll do especially if it's really good grass and it's going to be hard to strip. I'll go over here and I'll take it. I already got a cut here, so I'll go over here and I'll cut a path out just the width of the blade, and then I can come back and that section right next to my cut edge will peel up very nicely. I'll try that, but in this soil I'll probably, yeah, it didn't work that well because it just peeled everything up, which is what I want. That actually worked. I got a nice 3-inch path there. Worked pretty good. Take that out of bed because I got to pick it up anyway. So there, I made a little pass, and now this little strip will come up very, very easily. All right, so I got my handy dandy 5-gallon bucket to pick things up. Now, just in case you didn't notice, the camera's crooked, and I know that, and there's a reason for that. I don't know why. I know, well, whatever, I don't really care. I'm still gonna show you what I'm doing, and I'm not gonna spend 15 minutes trying to get the camera perfect because I'm not about that. So I'm gonna pick up most of this sod. To be honest with you, I wouldn't have to. I could throw it in this bed, but they don't look like much right now. But these are some pretty nice Japanese maples. They're just, you know, they're a little bit sun scorched. They've been out here in the sun all summer. Some of them have a little bit of powdery mildew because we overhead water and they get watered all the time, which is not a good thing, but it keeps them alive in this sandy soil. But trust me, come spring, they'll be beautiful. And I'll probably dig, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 of them. I don't dig a lot because they're expensive, so we sell them for like 149 bucks a piece. So, you know, we can sell them, but we're in the $8 plant business, so we can't sell a ton of things at 150 bucks. All right, real quick I want to mention, because I forget to mention this, and sometimes I forget to do it, but I really want you to get introduced to our members area because it's an amazing place for some people. But if you want to buy really nice plants at really great prices, I mean, like, you know, $2, $3, $4 a plant, rare Japanese maples like this, like $15, $17 a plant, that's the place to be. So I'm trying to put a link at the bottom of all these newer videos that I'm doing for the members area. But here's what happens. I promise you that today, but then life happens, and sometimes it's 2, 3 weeks, 6 months before I do so I edit the video and get it uploaded. So I forget that I promised you that. So if I forgot, just tell me, and I'll you know, put a comment below the video. And I know years ago I was horrible about that. I did not respond to comments, and the reason I did not was because at that time I was doing all of the email myself, and we had 250,000 people on the email list. So and I was answering questions on my blog, mikesbackyardnursery.com, and then I was spending lots and lots of time answering questions in the members area, and then I was answering questions and responding to people in email. So I just couldn't make time to get over to YouTube and answer questions. And to be honest with you, I really regret that. But you know, I'm writing a book right now, and it'll be about hopefully in the next 3 or 4 months. But in there, I kind of explained what my life was like then. It was crazy hectic, and you can't make more hours, and that's really what it comes down to. So anyway, at least click on the link and watch the video, and then I can tell you all about the members area. And you know, it may or may not appeal to you. It doesn't matter to me. You know, as I mentioned before, this isn't even my business anymore. I turned this all over to my son Dustin several years ago. But you know, I built this thing from scratch and have been working on it for, I don't know, 25 or 26 years. So I still go in there and I help the members when and where I can. And I moderate the board to make sure that there's no funny business going on. And there's not, because we got awesome members. They know, you know, we set some ground rules. And unlike other areas of the internet where people say and do the meanest and ugliest things, in our members area, that doesn't happen. I mean, I've never allowed it. We don't do religion, we don't do politics, and we're not mean to each other. And if any of that comes up, you know, sometimes the newer member will kind of think it's like Facebook. It's not. And we very politely make them aware that we don't play like that. And so with that said, our members love each other, and they will travel across the country to visit each other. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And I got a few more weeds right here. I hope I'm still in the camera. If I'm not, you can just listen to me ramble. Back to my handy dandy Gama Ninja hoe. So that's pretty good, especially that this is a temporary bed, because come spring I'll put, actually probably maybe tomorrow I hope, I'll put the plugs in here, the tall phlox plugs, leave them here all winter, and then come early spring I'm gonna get them out, and then this bed we'll just mow along the edge of it. It'll get weedy again because it's just kind of how it works. All right, so I've got that done. Now I'm going to show you. Let's lower the camera here a little bit. And tip it. Okay. So this is the Easy Digger. This is the planting tool that I was telling you about. Man, this thing is awesome. So I'm going to show you pretty much how it works. I'll go up here and I'm just going to make a trench. If I got to make a hole, I dig a single hole. There are a few roots in this bed because not that many years ago there was some bunch of big trees here that we had to take down because they were pretty. The only thing about this is it does tend to plow a lot of soil in the direction that you're pulling it in. But I want the trench a little wider, so I'll turn it. Move the soil out of the way. I don't want to move it too far because I'm going to need that for backfilling. So when I put these plugs in here, they're not going to do much, if any, growing. So I'm going to put them in here real close together, plug to plug to plug. So that's why I'm digging a trench and not making not just digging a single hole. But again, that's how this thing works. Anytime I got to dig a hole for something small, that's my go-to tool. The Easy Digger. It's available on Amazon. It's available on other places. Online, of course. You're probably not going to find it at a big box store. Anyway, that's the Easy Digger. That's what it does. I'm Mike McGroarty. I'm going to put a link to the members area down there, and then I'm going to take that little yellow dog that's running around here and take her for a walk or do something. All right, have a great day. All right, so let's now I'm going to plant these. I got a few coreopsis and then a bunch of tall phlox that I need to put in that bed. You know, it's been a couple days ago since I showed you the tools and how I made that bed. So now I've got the trays in here. What I have left, these plants don't look great, only because it's the end of the growing season and they're tired and they're stressed out and they need a break and they need to be put in the ground, so they're going to be happy for the winter. So tagging is the most important thing that we do, because when you're selling plants, you have to have them properly tagged. You cannot guess at what you have. You can't say, you know, Grandma said this is a green luster holly. You can't tag it green luster holly, because Grandma might be wrong and you could get in trouble for doing that. So so tagging is important, but one of the big mistakes that people make is they tag with a permanent marker, and it says right on here permanent. Not true. These things are not permanent. This marker will fade in the sun and your tags will look snow white and you will have no idea what you have. Now there's a couple things that you can use that work. This paint marker works really, really well because it's paint. The only problem with them is I've not found one yet that's got a really fine tip, and the tip, but I don't really care about that. It doesn't, because this is tagging that I'm doing for my own purposes. This isn't tagging that I'm doing for customers. When we do things for customers, 99% of the time, we'll run it through the tag printer, and if it's just a handful of things, then we'll put them on these strip tags, and I usually have my wife do it because her handwriting is way better than mine, and for that, we might use the permanent marker because we only expect them to last a couple of months, and the permanent marker is a finer point. I don't like doing that because they still fade, but nonetheless, I only do that when I know exactly what it is and where it came from and where because if I propagated it from here, you can't see them from here, but I got some tree hydrangeas around the corner. I know what they are. They're phantom. I got them right over there. You know, I will always know what they are. And I only do one tree hydrangea for that reason, so I don't have to worry about what variety it is. I don't do enough volume to have 3 or 4 different kinds of tree hydrangeas. So the paint marker, these are loop tags. I'm not going to tear them apart just yet. You can see I can barely read them, but I can read them. So I have, these are the tall phlox. I have Summer Fantasy, Bubblegum Pink, Glamour Girl, and then I have Uptick Golden Bronze, which is coreopsis. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap these tags around these stakes and stick these tags in. And then I've also got these little stick-in tags that I had in the flats. I'm going to stick them in there just as well, just in case there's a problem. And if somehow I do lose track, I have a map of where these are in the bed up front, so I can reference the map, and then I'll know it's one of these 3 or 4. But that's probably not going to be the issue, because I really want to make sure that I have them tagged in such a way that I don't have to go on an excursion like that. So anyway, let's get our hands in the dirt and get these things planted. All right, I've got them in the ground, these tall phlox, and there's a handful of coreopsis in here. But as you can see, like right here, I have put paint stick on each end, mostly just so, because in the springtime, before anything is up, anything's leafed out, I'm going to be out here tromping around digging some of these Japanese maples in this bed, because this is kind of a mess and I got to get some of them out of here. So I've tagged these things in at least 2 or 3 different ways. So here's a little stick tag. This is a Summer Fantasy. I got this is a tag with a paint marker. Here, that's another one. And then there's another tag right here. So then this is the end of the Summer Fantasy. These are the phlox. So right here is a very small number of them. And then right in here, these are Glamour Girl tall phlox. And then the back row is Bubblegum Pink tall phlox on my taller marker on the wire stake. So basically, the goal is for these things to be, they're going to be pretty well protected with the Japanese maples and stuff. They'll be out of the wind. They'll get plenty of moisture. And ask me if in the spring whether or not this was a good idea or a bad idea. And as always, two things. One is always stay inspired, and two, I'm going to put a link at the bottom of the video to the members area, because you know, if nothing else, just watch the video, learn a little bit about our members area, because you can buy plants just like this for probably a couple bucks a piece, you know, $2.50 maybe in the members area. Everything is priced differently. These Japanese maples in this bed, I paid about $12 to $15 a piece for them when I bought them. That's been a few years ago, but now I get $149 for them, so that was a pretty good investment. So anyway, link below to the members area. Any questions, comments, mean things to say, just post them below and I'll do my best to respond.